Thank you for joining me for another episode of What Saith the Crooked Nose. Today we have somebody very special, Samantha Kaufman. She's somebody who has learned how to channel different entities, different wisdom, help others through dark periods of their lives by providing clarity, by providing spiritual and life coaching. And today we go pretty deep into her past, how all this got started, how she provides value to people, and tune in, check out, because this is going to be one heck of a conversation. As always, go ahead and subscribe. Go ahead and like the video, smash that like button, and leave any comments. Anything that you feel perhaps we didn't go deep enough, or maybe we lost you, or maybe you would have liked a follow-up question somewhere. Let us know. Samantha is somebody who we only scratched the surface, so I will certainly be having her back on the podcast, and I'd love your feedback on what sort of questions we should ask her going forward. Sound great? Fantastic. Again, tune in, check out, like and subscribe, and enjoy. All righty, Samantha Love Kaufman. I am so excited. This has been a work in the making, and you are so powerful. You shot out all your electricity and fried your internet, and so now that you have come back and grounded yourself, allow me to properly introduce you. So Samantha is a multidimensional channeler, medium, and spiritual life coach who has been studying and practicing in the field of metaphysics, spirituality, and personal development for 35 plus years. She assists individuals who feel that they are at a crossroads in their life to find clarity, greater meaning, and ultimately peace and enjoyment within this human experience and beyond by means of her intuitive and channeling abilities, as well as her spiritual life coaching programs. Man, that's awesome. I really love that. Samantha, how the heck are you?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm here
That's
with
great.
you.
Hey, all right, all right. And hey, if you didn't know, it's my birthday, right? So we're recording on my
Oh,
birthday. I know.
it's your
So, lots of
birthday.
love, right?
Woo.
Hey, it's
Okay.
birthday. It's birthday. Um, so I wonder if you could maybe share for us a little bit about, so channeling is perhaps one of the more odd metaphysical things because it's so hard to wrap the brain around. Like, wait a minute,
Mhm.
you're channeling an entity that may or may not exist in the past or the future or in a different dimension or in a different, planet. Can you maybe share with us a little bit of your backstory of how you even realized that you had this gift? And then how I assume, and I could be wrong here, but I assume that there was probably some doubt within yourself, like, is this real? And maybe how you managed that and how you dealt with that.
Okay, so I have a podcast with some friends of mine called Out on the Limb. And we talk about the self-doubt all the time. Like, it's a trust walk.
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to clarify one thing because you said, about having a gift. And to me, the gift would be coming into this lifetime knowing that I had this ability, but everyone has the ability. We
Mm,
all can do this stuff. So it's just a matter of my interests, my focus taking me this direction my whole life. Whether you can say that was part of my plan or whatever, could be, but it's just been my focus.
mm,
Whereas someone else's focus might be to be the greatest salesman of condos. I don't know, So it's really no different. I had to work at it to get to where I am now. So I see it as an ability and not so much a gift. All right.
mm. I like that.
I just want everyone to understand that they have this. So having been in this for 35 years, I started off on a path of, I started off with tarot, to be honest. I was just very fascinated with how, I don't know, how people could sit there and look at these cards and come up with these thoughts that were just so amazing. And the thing is, yes, they'd be related to the cards, but then they would go off of that and be so much more. That right there is channeling, right?
Mm,
And so you're not just reading the card and going, oh, this card says this, like you're getting more from it than that. So that was my introduction, I guess you would say, to intuitive abilities and thus channeling. Um, so my first mentor, she taught me to memorize every single card and then throw away the meanings and
Ooh.
assign your own meanings. And so in that way, you're connecting to your guides, your higher self, and you're creating, I guess you could call it like a love language between the two of you, a
Mm.
way of communicating that they know that when they point something out, get me to look at something particular, that my mind will go there and I'll see that object. And that's right where you kind of fall off the cliff, where you have to trust and you just let whatever comes out of your mouth comes out of your mouth. And it's funny, not until this conversation with you have I realized that that is channeling. Everything is channeling. I used to just see it, oh, as I'm reading the card and I'm getting these intuitive nudges. And it's like, no, that's actually channeling what's coming
Mm.
through.
You know, what I love
So,
about what you just said there is also often I'll be having conversations with people and I'll form this idea and then I'm like, holy cow, did that just come out of me? Wow, that's amazing. Like
mhm.
I do believe that because I can feel the truth of that, but I've never once strung those words together in one sentence. And so I'm glad that that happened. And you know, because I see that in myself so often. And
Mhm.
yeah, that's great. And so you started off with tarot, and then where did tarot take you?
So tarot was great fun. I loved it. And I did it for the majority of my spiritual journey.
Hmm.
And then I got to the point where it's like it's very inconvenient to carry around cards and to have a place to spread them out, as you can
Yeah.
imagine. So I felt like they were a crutch, and I just kept getting this nudge that I had to move away from them.
Mm.
And so I kept trying to find mentors who could help me do that shift. Um, because it's each step along the way, it's like you're reaching into a different unknowingness and you're
Mm.
grasping onto something that becomes solid to you so that like once you feel it, you go, oh, I know where that is and I can go back. And so I had a friend who was very good at, doing, she did intuitive psychic readings. Just know I use psychic and intuitive. To me, intuitive is more all encompassing rather than psychic. I just don't like all the connotations with psychic. It
Sure.
kind of
Yeah,
goes a different
the Miss
place.
Cleos and the 1-800
Exactly.
numbers and the cold reading and just trying to get you to stay on long enough so I can charge you a giant bill. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. And predicting someone's future, I say I don't predict, I don't do predictions. I intuit probabilities.
Mm.
So that's a whole different area. So anyway, she got me into that space of grounding and trusting the energy around me. And I don't know exactly how to explain it. It's just like, again, it's you have to be in the moment. Everyone has their own, they'll find their own way. There's no one way. And that's why you never stop this journey of learning, because what someone does, all of a sudden you go, okay, that makes sense. And then you go, well, I'll try it this way. Oh my gosh, now this really opened the floodgates. So you have to try different areas. So you never stop the journey of learning. So anyway, it just was this thing that turned on where all of a sudden I felt like, okay, I can sense this person's energy. Now I'm going to let it flow from there. That didn't quite work so well for me in the beginning. But then when I met another mentor who said, well, see their name written down, connect to their name. And so I would see, I grew up on the beach. So I would see their name being written in wet sand. And so that would help me connect into their energy. And after a little while, I suddenly realized, wait, they're presenting the names differently each time. So I started to describe to the people, like I'm seeing, like if it's a J for Joshua, it's a difference of whether they hand print it out blockwise or they do this big swooping
Oh.
cursive.
Mhm.
And I could start sensing things about people, their artistic ability, if they were, staunch and restrictive in their being, and how close their first name was to their last name gave me indication of like how it was growing up, what their parents were like. And I could just fall into the feeling of it, and the information would just flow. So there again, I'm channeling, it's just this information. We always see it as channeling. And I always saw it as channeling as this spiritual being that you're connecting to from another time, space, whatever. But it's just the information flowing through. So there's all kinds of different channelings. If you're writing a book and you're in that space, you're channeling. if you are composing music and you know, are in that flow, you're channeling. So it's all channeling.
So you could
Uh,
almost say that the Tao Te Ching is a book of channeling in order to get you into a complete flow state, into where you're just
it's flow.
flowing and channeling the universe.
Exactly. That was a good
Wow.
way to put it. It's flow. You know, if you sit there and watch a chef, like just like cutting things up and they're in that flow and they're putting things together and it's just beautiful. That's their own form of creative channeling.
That's awesome. And another thing that you mentioned twice now, maybe even three times, that you sought out mentors.
Oh, yes.
And while I personally fully understand how important it is to have a mentor, I wonder if maybe you could share why it was so important for you to find, from where you were to, where you wanted to be, and how a mentor maybe help you bridge that gap.
Um, okay, so when now this ages me. So when I started off, you know, there was no internet. And you know, so the books that were popular of the day, um, were through, you know, they were the Wayne Dwyer books, Sylvia Brown,
Mm,
individuals like that through Hay House Publishing. And so you could go to the bookstore and at least connect with those books.
mm,
Um, and so I guess you could say my journey really started with in finding mentors, was the experience of just going to the bookstore, and there would always be one book that was further out on the shelf. You know, even if it was out of order, like it
yeah.
would be 1, 3, 4, and you know, and 2 would be way over here, but you know, I should read 1, but 2 is way over here, and I just knew that was the right one for me. And I wouldn't know why I would do it, but it would all make sense. It would apply to something I was about to experience. And so in a way you could say, you know, my mentoring started just with encountering these books and whatever that nudge was that would have me select a particular book. So the first books that I really started to resonate with was Sylvia Brown books. So you could say she was a mentor of mine. I
Yeah.
went to see her a few times, you know, paid for like the group experience and stuff. And what I loved about her is that my experience thus far with readings was that you had to have the crystals and the lights and the candles and you know, and the person, you know, just with all the headdress, what, you know, just really crazy kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I was just like, but that's not me. That's, I don't identify with that. And then I see Sylvia Brown get on stage and she is just as irreverent as hell. Like, I mean, just the stuff coming out of her mouth. I'm like, oh my God, I love this person. You know, I found that like through my spiritual journey, I'm a rules breaker. You know, none of it, like each time I would learn someone's system, it's like, you don't have to do that. You could just do this, you know? So, so she would be like my first mentor, reading her books, getting an understanding of how to do some processes and so forth. Um, and having that person, so when we talk about a mentor, having that individual who has blazed the trail before you,
Mm,
it's not that they're famous, it's not that they are um, successful, it's not that they are some shining light to anyone else in the world. It's simply that they have a piece of knowledge and they're putting their hand out to you saying, let me lift you up on the next rung. I can show you this. It's that sort of experience where I'm going to teach them as much as they're going to teach me. You
mm,
know, that to me is a mentor, you know,
yeah.
somebody that it is the energy is balanced between the two of you. That kind of mentor you're going to have a longer relationship with than anyone else. But mentors change. um, as you go through your process, you know, it's like there is a point, at least for me, there was always a process at which something would go askew, you know, either communication or they just suddenly stopped doing what they were doing or whatever the deal is. And I would I would feel like I'm starting all over again. Like I have this much knowledge, but who do I go to next?
Mm,
But that process was designed for me to then go and explore the next area of my spiritual education. And so that's been the path of just, okay, I learned tarot, then I moved, so I wasn't around that mentor anymore. So what was my next step? Okay, well, I knew that I didn't want to carry around cards. So, you know, all of a sudden I have a best friend who happens to be a psychic and I start learning from her. Well, she goes through a really stressful time, falls off she fell out of my life. It was the weirdest thing. And then I'm going, now who do I learn from? And then that's when I looked online, and just, it's like crazy how these people pop up. They just, someone I would have no connection with. There's no reason why I should understand who they are. And all of a sudden I'm connected with them, and they take me through that next bit of my journey.
Mm. Yeah, I fully resonate with that. The idea that, you see somebody that you don't even know, and there's this intimate sense of knowing,
Mm-hmm.
and they're almost speaking to your soul saying, hey, if you follow me, I can help you get to where I am right now. Now, they may be somewhere further progressed by the time you get there, but
Mm-hmm.
there's something that's drawing you. And in fact, Peter Sage, when I first saw it, I had no idea who this guy was. I mean, who's this guy? This British chap, tall and speaking, throwing out all these quotes that I often use myself. And I felt like he was like an older brother that just said, hey, come this way. If you come this way, then I'll show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. And that, yeah, that later led me to, my spiritual master who taught me how to heal. But, what I find really fascinating about your story, it's much different than my own in that it seems for a long time you've been able to trust your intuition, right? And I wonder if it's fair to even say that your intuition and your inner, your inner I am, your great I am was maybe your first mentor, in that you walk into a bookstore and you're like, oh, look, at two's out of place. This must be the book for me. Whereas, most of my life, I'd be asked, hey, what do you want to do in your life, for instance? And I'd be like, oh, I want to do this. And everyone would be like, that's dumb. You should do what I think that you should do. And I put them on a pedestal, so I felt very small. And since I put them on a pedestal, what basically I started doing is I started accumulating all this evidence of why anything that comes from within should be discounted because it's dumb. Because I have all this evidence that
Oh, wow.
everyone who's on a pedestal that I put on a pedestal, whether it be my folks or my siblings, or just people that, yeah, I mean, even friends, right? I assume that a friend the same age as me somehow knows more about the world than I do, simply by how small I felt. And but
Oh,
you
that's
seem to have a strong connection to your intuition. Like, has that been something present most of your life?
um when I have conversations like this, then I kind of go, wow, you don't, because it's your life, so you don't
Yeah.
see it as any different. I mean, growing up, I was different than the rest of my family. I used to call them the beautiful people. They were all brown hair, like they would tan real easily. They wouldn't sunburn like I would with my blonde hair. They were all, athletic, popular. I was into horses, and it was just like, just such a different, for the longest time growing up, I played with model horses. I didn't play with Barbie dolls. I was so into animals. But like horses for me, I felt like I could communicate, like I could understand, I could
Mm.
tactily feel them. And so it was, I would literally like we would do the laundry, and whenever change would fall out, I would go in and I'd grab that change and I would hold it aside, and I would save up. So I had like, I think at the time it was like, again, dating myself, because it was only $3.25 to ride a horse. But I would have to save up twice that amount so I could get a girlfriend to go with me. And I would go down and present all these coins, because you couldn't ride alone.
Yeah.
You couldn't ride alone, and yet we were only 10 years old. So as long as I brought another 10-year-old friend, we could rent two horses and then go riding. And this was in California near the flood controls. Um, totally
Wow.
crazy.
Yeah. A
So,
different time. A different time.
uh-huh. But that was such freedom for me, like to be able to, like, I've never been able to ride with hands, with my like with gloves on. I
Mhm.
have to feel the horse. It's very tactile. So there's something in that that I recognize is a very like I have to be connected to the experience. um but then I don't know. It's just, I was that friend even when we would go out drinking. I'm the one that would see, like, I always describe it as, if there was a crack in the pavement and there was a little flower growing up, I'm the one who would see that and just stop and marvel over it. So, like my friends say I'm the Phoebe of the group. Just, I don't know. Are you familiar with Friends?
Oh, okay. Friends, a TV show. So
Yes.
I was I grew up as a bit of a goth kid. I had a big chip on my shoulder. And so I was very much into, darkness, and, you said the beautiful people. My mind went to Marilyn Manson, because that's where,
Oh,
that's really what I started listening to, and, big time. And so I was really big into, demons and witchcraft and
oh
real
wow.
dark stuff, because I grew up in Utah. I felt real small. And since I
Oh,
grew up secular, then all the Mormons, really, let me have it, let me know just how much they knew that I was different and what they felt about it. And so, it made me feel that, oh, well, love and God and all this stuff is, for the birds, F all these people, and so I found a deep seated pit of despair, and I swam in it for a really long time. And it took
so
me,
opposite.
yeah, I know. Well, and the thing is that we choose our path, right? And so, it's what I've come to learn, and I suspect that you think something, quite similar, but I'd be happy to hear your thoughts, is that, our souls choose our family, and they choose our path, and they choose because these are the lessons we're ready for, because
Mhm.
of, whatever decisions we've made in the past. We're now ready to face these trials, and we're now ready to become, the type of person that we need to become in order for our soul to be able to grow in this, human game.
Mhm. Yep, totally agree. I mean, okay, so the advantage I have is that I do mediumship.
Mhm.
So I'm able to ask souls, what the
Yeah.
deal is and get a bigger picture. And what it's not like I just believe anything and just go, oh, this sounds great. Everything that I've learned, everything that I've learned through my experiences, I don't just, I keep an open mind, but I don't repeat with any sense of, I don't want to say authority, but small capital T truth, kind of whatever.
Mhm.
I don't relay any of that unless I've experienced it myself. Okay. So when I tell people, well, yeah, when your soul chooses who's going to be their parent, well, it's because I've had the conversation with the soul who's explained it to me, you know.
Oh,
When I talk about, like, I've always been open about UFOs. Of course, there's got to be other things that exist out there. I mean, why would I have the hubris to doubt that?
yeah.
So I've always had an open mind, but not until, in fact, I got kicked out of a group, a spiritual group, because I was not buying into the whole, like, they were going too far with the galactics and all this stuff. And this was like in 2017 and 2018, I think. And then my son and I are on a road trip out to California, and we're leaving Arizona at dusk. And he's driving and he's like, Mom, what am I seeing? Mom. And I look up and there's a UFO right in front of us. And then we see this, and then it does its little dematerializing thing. And I mean, it's huge. And he goes, Mom, do you think you could talk to them? And I'm like, I don't know, because I don't know what I can do until I try it. So
Yeah.
I get into my meditation mode. He's driving down the road through the, what is it, the Maricopa Desert or something. And he starts drilling these questions. And I'm connected to an ET that was, I think it was a Zeta Reticuli. I don't know. It's a small gray. And they're answering all these questions. Like, you can't make these responses up because they're so deep and intelligent and so cool. So I've had the advantage of this layering of crossover of people that I trust, who I built this trust because I've seen them connect and have
Mm.
verifiable experiences, and therefore I can, it's like a tapestry of, or matrix of an understanding that then gives me the ability to say, well, my reality, my truth is this, not just because I want it to be.
Yeah. No, I like that.
So
That's fantastic. Yeah,
yeah,
I
so when you
really,
say we choose, yes, we choose. It's a
yeah.
very complex interweaving. That's where the weaving comes in, is like, I describe it as, this incredible fabric tapestry of people coming in and choosing, well, if you're going to do this, then I'll do this because I need to learn this time. And, and how deep it all comes together, just like intricate. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, that sounds amazing, right? Pretty cool is, definitely one way to put it. Now, yeah, serve people in the capacity of life coaching as well as this mediumship. Can you
Mhm.
maybe take us through maybe a type of question that somebody might come to you with, or a type of burden that maybe they're trying to unburden themselves with, and maybe how you connect in order to help them? And I suspect that in many ways, it's very counterintuitive. People probably want some sort of black and white answer, and that's probably just not the way that things happen. And I'm really curious to hear your thoughts on that.
That's an interesting question. Okay, so let me start with, having done this for so long, my general client is someone who comes in and they have a pain point in their life. They're trying to figure something out and they just can't manage the pain another day for, emotional, mental, physical, whatever it is. No one else has been able to give them the answer. And so they seek me out. And I sit there with them. And the way I describe it, what my ability has been my whole life is finding that thing deep down inside that's holding someone back, that's troubling them, no matter what they come to me for. This is the thing that I always zero in on. Then bringing it to light so that they gain awareness about it, and then shifting their perspective so that then they're freed from whatever that is.
Yeah.
The thing is, you can't hold that placement of the shifted perspective, if someone just leaves and never does another thing about it. And that would so frustrate me because I'm like, they would come back maybe 3-4 months later and just say, well, what you said, all of that was so true. And now I'm dealing with this. And it's like, you don't have to be dealing with that if you would just continue, anyway. So I knew that I don't ever tell people to come back and see me over and over again for a reading. Okay. Readings go pretty deep and they are to bring about that awareness. And I'm not one of those people that go, well, for so much money, you could see me monthly. I'm always like, when it resonates with you, 4 months down the road, 12 months down the road, or just when it hits you. But I'm not going to tell you anything different within a period of 3 to 4 months, because I've pretty much read where your energy's going for 3 to 4 months. So, I kept thinking I want to do this life coaching thing. And I remember looking it up going, okay, what does it take to be a life coach? And, finding out people were charging ungodly amounts of money for something that's not even accredited. Like it's not a thing. You can't say, boom, you're a life coach. You're either one or you're not. And we're all kind of life coaches.
In some way. Yeah.
Yep. It's the same thing with my spiritual practice. It's by being ethical, by knowing my values, by being professional about it, by presenting it as a business format where I'm treating the person with great respect. In fact, I even got my divinity. So I don't know, I can call myself whatever, I don't even know, it's a minister of something.
Yeah. Hey, I'm one of those too.
Okay, yeah. But so my reason for doing it was so that when people talk to me, I have this I can hold up and say, no, this is confidential between the two of us, and I have this backing me up. Just another layer of professionalism. So anyway, I realized, okay, I'm going to just dive into this. And I did end up, of course, a mentor came into place who set me up on the path of beginning to do life coaching. Not that it was part of the whole, his name was Nick Bro. And he'd created this group called The Collective, and he started this freedom formula program. And so it was through that I started going, okay, here's a system, here's a way to go about doing it. So anyway, that's how I got into the whole life coaching thing to begin with. It's a challenging area to be in because most people don't want you to point out their shit.
Yeah, well, most people don't want to see it. They just wanted to be offloaded. They just wanted to offload and not have to even do any work to get rid of it.
Exactly. And so that's why they'd come in for a reading and they could step back away from it.
Yeah.
But so when you're really ready to do the work and you see a life coach, life coaches, I don't know how traditional life coaches work. I only know from my standpoint. And it's getting the person to realize where they're locked up inside and where they, how to shift into a space of perceiving things differently so that they can get back more into a flow. And then creating consistency of being in that flow. So yeah, there's that magical number of 12, meet with me 12 times, 12 weeks, whatever. And I find that having someone meet with me for 6 weeks, maybe 8, but I find that my clients tend to want to do 6 weeks, maybe 8, and then they want to save those last appointments and drag them out over a longer period of time. So if they start to fall off a little bit, they can contact me and kind of get back on board. Okay, so I'm still trying to get to your question, like what shifts it, what makes it different? Again, it's not like I came up with all these formulas of this is how I'm going to do this. It's really them coming in and talking to me kind of like how you would with a therapist, except the moment I catch them on something, it's like, whoop, stop, let's look at that word. Let's look at the way you're framing your reality. Let's talk about this. And, so it's kind of starting off gently like that and getting them to begin to examine their life, their life's choices, and that sort of thing. And I have exercises, meditations. So here's some of the difference is if all of a sudden I'm like, oh, wait a second, they really need to meditate, get into a space to focus on this. And this will be downloads coming through going, okay, here's something that they need. Then I just stop and create it for them. So then I have that available for other clients as well. But it's just like having sudden downloads of this is the direction I need to take them. This is the information they need. This is what I need to create for them. And it's like, I have clients come in that I sit there and just go, I don't even know what I'm going to say or do. I have no clue. And it's just giving it over to that process that the magic occurs as we start to talk. And the less that I think about it and the more that I let that flow just come through me, then it begins to direct the conversation. And I end up saying things that I go, wow, that was really good. Did you catch that? Because that was really good. I've never said that before, Yeah. So, and the other difference is that if they really do get stuck, like they've said, can we just do a reading? And I'll stop and go into spiritual, go into that kind of channeling mode, and we'll examine things from a different perspective. So you don't get that from a regular life coach.
No, not at all. Not at all. Wow, that's fascinating. And, listening to you talk too, just earlier today, I held a healing circle for the VIP members of of my digital summit that I'm throwing. And so I, put together this summit of, 19 different speakers from around the world talking about, healing, frankly. And, these are different spiritual healers, whether it be Reiki masters or shamans, or I even interviewed a neuroscientist. I interviewed an endocannabinoid expert, interviewed an ACT, expert, if you're familiar with ACT. Advanced cell training, I believe. And so they do a lot of muscle testing, and they, incorporate some music into like the brain's, like reprogramming, and be able to get the body to heal itself. And it, and the point there was, in order to get people to see, hey, if this neuroscientist is saying something so incredibly similar to this shaman who's saying something so incredibly similar to this, endocannabinoid expert, and all these things, like, well, hey, can you see that it's just in the same way I can say the same thing in English, somebody can say the same thing in Spanish, and it's still getting the same point across. It's just using different language. And so that way I'm trying to create a safe space for people to be like, oh, this is real. This is something I can actually enter into, because, a big part of what I do is meditation, and, and the mind doesn't feel safe. Well, what does it do? It starts looking around everywhere. Hey, what's going on? What's going on? Right? Starts chattering. And,
be anywhere but inside your mind. Yeah,
exactly. Well, and I didn't know what I was going to say. I had an idea of the structure of where I wanted to take people, but I had no idea what I was going to say. And I just kind of went with it. And, every single person who showed up was blown away. There was another energy healer said, I've never felt anything that powerful before. Never. It's like, wow, thank you. Right. Tell me more. Right. And so I love hearing that flow state of what you're talking about, because it gives me, it gives me a lot of, I guess, credence to allow myself to be like, oh, I am channeling. Right. Because I thought of channeling like, oh, there's an entity that I'm connecting to. And that's not really anything that I'm not disinterested in that, but it's not really where I'm leaning into, right? I'm leaning more into source and just, connecting to the field.
Yeah.
But it's basically the same thing, it sounds like, which is phenomenal and fascinating.
Well, and I just want to back up a bit, because when you were talking about how you're interviewing all these different people, and you're finding the concepts are shared. That's just
Mhm.
like the religions, where all the major concepts are shared in the religion. And that goes back to that matrix of information that
Yeah.
I was telling you about, that
Yep.
it, when you look at this stuff with an open mind, then it allows you to start seeing all of the connections. And when you begin to see all of those connections, you can't sit there and unsee it.
Right.
It's done. Your mind has been shifted, it's been opened, and, you know, off you go running. It's just being willing to take those first few steps and open your mind. But I love that you've had that experience, like that you recognize, because the thing is, you don't know where that information for that meditation and everything, and for that, that energy coming through you, you you don't know unless you ask, and even then you never really know. But you don't know if it could have been a galactic, and when I say
Mm.
galactic, I'm saying, something other than that which is on Earth. um so you have no idea where it could have been angelic. I mean, when I have done these channelings, like, all the different things, like I've gotten to see people's souls, I've gotten to see angels doing things to people, and how they work with them. I've gotten to see people's guides, which a guide is not the same for everyone. Like, it's not always someone who's crossed over that, like my brother had these two, they're almost like eel-like creatures. I always think of Ariel, that, I don't know if you ever saw that, the movie Little Mermaid, where there's these two moray eels, but they're these female eels, and he is Gemini. So, the two-brained whatever, and he has these two kind of, eel is the only way I know to describe it, because they kept kind of intertwining this energy. So, you don't know where the stuff's coming from.
Yeah.
But when it resonates, when it lifts you up, that's when you know that it's divine, that it's of a
Mm.
higher energy. And how can you not trust that higher energy?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Oh, wow. I love that. And can you maybe, share with us an example of somebody that maybe that even surprised you, right? Just by how powerful the impact was as you were taking them through. Maybe it was channeling, maybe it was meditating, maybe you even stopped, mid of what you were doing because you felt that you should pivot. And just the experience that they had, and even if it wasn't in the moment, maybe it was months later. Maybe share with us how maybe your ability to go with the flow, to go with what's being channeled, to go with what's being shown to you, how it's really helped people even in such a way that maybe just, surprised you with the results.
um well, because a lot of times people come see me one time, I don't get to hear the follow-up.
Ah,
It's very rare that I get to hear the follow-up. um but there's a pattern that I've noticed in a lot of the older women who meet with me, um, who it's this really strange pattern where generally there's two, maybe three kids, but it's usually two kids. And one of the children, let's see, it's okay, wait, it's not the mother, it's one of the daughters. Okay, it's the daughter, and the other daughter is manipulative and manipulates the parents in such a way that the parents will no longer um allow the other one to be. It's almost like kicking someone out of the nest. It's the
oh wow.
craziest thing. And it's like, the parents end up giving everything to this one child, and they end up kind of turning their back, even though it's tearful, they know it doesn't feel right, feels wrong. um and I've had this happen several times, and heard back from one person who was like talking to them about the energy of what I could see of, what was taking place in the relationship, and explaining to them that, like, they can feel it. I get them to feel that there's no forward motion with that, and that they have to just, you know it's almost like saving yourself, moving into that space of what's healthiest for me. Well, you've got this beautiful life, you have this beautiful family, enjoy your life, back away from it, let them work through their situation, because eventually something will work itself out. But as long as you keep trying to come in, it creates um this pushback or whatever. And so that particular person, one person contacted me back about that, and said that, yeah, they found that they could get time with their mother. They could form a bit more of a relationship by just backing off, and then just every so often not pointing out what was wrong with it. I'm trying to find a good example here, because it's a real tough one. The first one I was thinking of was the mom who came to see me who couldn't see her grandchildren. And a lot of times it's getting people to shift and realize that they have to let go of the relationship, for their own health, their own well-being, and
Mm.
then how that shifts their lives. Um,
It's a very
I mean,
Buddhist principle, right? Learn to let go of that which you fear to lose.
yeah, yeah. And it's going to either work itself out or it's not, but you can't hold on to that outcome. Okay, I think if I look at it, the most profound that I can think of at the moment was when I was first learning how to do mediumship, right? So you're channeling souls who crossed over, which I know a lot of people don't think you're channeling, but that's channeling. They're talking to you somehow. And so I met with this one person as part of I'm just testing out these abilities. Let's check it out.
Yeah.
And some of the stuff I was telling her, she was like, yeah, that sounds like my boyfriend. I think that's my boyfriend. Can I have a private session with you? And I said, sure. And when it came time to have the session, it was a Zoom session. I felt him very present in the room with his guides, my guides. Like the room felt crowded. I'd never felt such a sensation. I mean, it's always different, but this was super crowded. And then she gets online and I see her, but I can tell there's things behind her. There's space, there's energy. So I connect her in with her boyfriend, just like what I do is I validate first, this is the energy that I'm feeling, it, presents as male. And we go through the validation. And then I'm like, okay, what questions do you have? Because the questions are definitely the steering of the mind. You need that to kind of prime the pump. And she's like, well, I don't understand why he did what he did. And that's all he said, she says. And excuse my language, I relate how they say it, but he's like, what I'm seeing is he's sitting here and he's got his hands kind of folded, between his legs. And he's like, I'm sorry. He's like, I really fucked up. I'm going, okay, a spirit's saying I really fucked up. This is interesting, but this is what he's saying to me, and he's like, he's telling you, like, and he really wanted to just talk through me. So I kind of had to keep, changing my mode, but he recognized that he should not have been out driving the night he was driving, that he was with someone, that yes, he was cheating on her. And he just kept going on and on about where he screwed up and that he had taken too much. He had taken substances and that's what threw him off. And then he wrecked his motorcycle and he died and left her wondering what's going on. I thought we were having this relationship. Then I find out that, you're cheating. She finds out all of this stuff after the fact, right? So she's just bereft, trying to pull her life together. And so she's getting closure now with him, right? And he steps back and I said, so this is what my guides are explaining. They're telling you, and it can be different every single time. It's crazy.
Yeah.
They said they want you to write down everything you want to shout at him, everything you want to say. Just write it all down until you can't write anymore, until the tears are spent, until you're just done. And they said, then they want you to take that, put it in a plastic, really specific, a plastic container or Ziploc, bury that in the earth for about 3 days to a week. Okay. And just let all that just kind of sit and then pull it back out, read it over. And then, like go back, read what you've written and then burn it and just let it go. And this was the process they wanted her to do. And I say that, and then he's still here and he says, he's saying something about this baby. And so I said, he's talking about this baby. And she goes, I don't know what he's talking about. Maybe the girlfriend had a baby or something. I don't, and I'm like, but he keeps talking about this baby and how special this baby is. Anyway, so that's the end of the reading. And she reaches out to me. I think it was about possibly a year later. She was referring her mom to me because her mom had cancer and needed some information. And she says, oh, and I have to tell you. So I did everything that they said to do. Oh, wait, no, sorry, back up. She did do what they say to do. And she said, I guess she contacted me 2 weeks after she did what she was supposed to do. And she said, I don't feel any better, and I'm like, just give it time. Okay. So now it's a year later. And she's like, and I have to tell you what happened. And I said, what? She goes, Well, I started dating someone, and this guy is amazing. And I found out I'm pregnant. And she goes, I think that's the baby he's talking about. Like, from this encounter with this healing that he, was talking about with her, and, this exercise my guides instructed her to go through, and she did follow through on it, didn't get immediate results because that's not how it works. But it shifted her, moved her into this space. And, he was trying to let her know, you're going to have a baby. Things are going to be okay. Because that's
Mm.
apparently what she really wanted with him. She saw all of that happening. But so anyway, it's like,
Wow, that's
I don't know, to
powerful.
try to pull these things, like there's
Sure.
so many different scenarios that I've been through. So I don't know if that answers your
No,
question.
I like that. I like that because of just how surprising that is. And, he's saying something that, it seemed to be a non sequitur to her. He just didn't really
Hmm.
like baby. What are you talking about, baby? Right. And
Yeah.
then, and it almost seemed that same response when she did everything. I tried it, Samantha. Like, I didn't feel anything. I don't feel any better. I'm still angry. I'm still mad. And then,
Hmm.
but, what that makes me think of is, in a little bit, it's not exactly the same, but I was listening to Sadhguru, and he was talking about Devil's Tower and just how powerful Devil's Tower is, and he recommended to go there during a full moon. And so like,
Wow.
okay, well, I'll go there during the full moon. And I decided before I left that what I may only get out of this, the fact that I can commit to a spiritual sojourn. And I may get nothing more out of it than just the fact that I can have faith enough to go out and do it. And I may
Right
come
on.
back with just, 9 hours there and 9 hours back and nothing out of it. But it blew my mind. It blew my mind. And I
Really?
wonder if that was part of that, is that it allowed her to have faith in that spiritual path, allow her to start taking that step
Hmm.
and walking that way.
I think it's whenever you, like I said, it's that thing of identifying what it is, right? First step. Second step, having the awareness, looking at it from all, angles, which then shifts your perspective,
Hmm.
you know. And so by having that awareness, by having that willingness to just open your mind up is really what it is.
Yeah.
So whatever that entails, I mean, I think that if anyone goes and does something and then well, I say this, but I so I had this need to go up to this event that my friends were having up in Charleston. And I was just like, this is going to be cool. I have this nudge, and I'm sitting there listening to this teacher talking about the mystical schools, the 7 mystical schools. And she is talking to us like we are first graders. And her delivery is not even consistent. It keeps shifting. Like she's not doing it in any specific order. So you can't compare the different like it's so confusing. It's like what is going on here? And when she was done, I was like, what was this experience? And so, okay, so that's where I felt like not everything has a meaning. I was like,
Yeah.
I thought everything had a profound whatever. And I remember saying that to my friend who allowed this woman to host this event at her place. And she said, but Samantha, what you're forgetting is that doesn't resonate with you. That resonates with other people. And I'm going, yeah, but I came up there. I wasted my time going to that. I spent money going to that. I should have some profound experience over it. And she's like, but aren't you having a profound experience? Like, aren't you realizing, that there are so many different ways we go with this whole spiritual journey? And here I had reached a level um, that is my level, not anyone else's level, but it's my level. And I was actually looking at how someone else did something and passing judgment, when to
Mm.
someone else, that was a lifeline being thrown out to them of how
Yeah.
they could get into their spiritual journey. And so I was like, okay, whack that one off. I was so ashamed of myself. I was like, okay, I'm not going to make that mistake again. The moment I feel that kind of, what is this person doing? I'm going to stop and recognize there are different paths for different people.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
And
and what's so interesting about that too is, I don't know if you know who Laz Core is. He's a big
I've
part of
met him,
the.
had
Yeah. Oh,
dinner
have
with
you?
him.
Nice. So I've had, internet chats, Zoom chats with him, and I shared something with him, and told him that he gave me a gift because he triggered me, and because we were, there was a 5-day manifestation that Peter Sage was putting on.
Mhm.
And here comes Laz, right? The VP of sales, right? Who's, super guy, right? So, here I am trying not to put him on a pedestal, right? And then he goes to quote Peter Sage and completely flops the quote. And I immediately think, I know that quote. And right. And
Oh,
then
wow.
I caught myself. I was like, oh wow, look at me already judging this guy. Like, I don't know who this guy is. I never talked to him. I don't know his background. I don't know where he comes from. And I am immediately trying to peacock and fan my feathers. And so I told him that. And I told him, thanks, man. I really appreciate that, because anytime we're triggered, it's a way for us to then see, where we can be, mind controlled and manipulated. And so
Mhm.
whenever somebody triggers us, it's a huge gift. So then that way we can put awareness onto that, and defend. Well, I guess not really defend ourselves, but protect ourselves.
Well,
And
and
yeah, I found
and
that
you
funny.
saw that pedestal. The moment you see a pedestal,
Yep.
you got to stop that stuff,
Yep.
because you know what? They're going through self-doubts too.
Yep.
They're going through, not saying lies, as I'm just saying, that anybody you put on a pedestal, they're still getting up in the morning. They're still hoping to make it through the day and, pay bills and do whatever and feel good and walk their talk, or maybe not, whatever.
Yep.
I mean, they're going through the myriad of emotions. And so, like, to me, that is the biggest step in your spiritual journey, is when you start seeing people. When I was given that vision, it was when I was doing a reading for my friend up in Charleston, and because she was nervous about the idea of her speaking in front of a group of people, and they were saying, I was about to say, and I was saying, no, they were saying that she needed to stop seeing that she wasn't the source of the information. She was delivering the information, and that she was getting out of it as much as they were getting out of it, and that the important thing was that she did not need to know it all. That was not the point. That
Mhm.
she was merely, again, the idea of putting your hand out and helping that person right up on the next rung. And you don't know, they might jump ahead of you, and then they're going to help you up. How can you accept that help from them if if you've placed your own self on a pedestal, or if they
Yep.
see you on that pedestal, because then you're like, I'm getting this person's attention,
Right.
and look at this. And already you're demeaning yourself, and you're taking away from the potential experience that they could have if you just treated them like an equal,
Yeah. Yeah.
so the whole pedestal thing, we're moving through a time where that's hopefully easing up, that, we just are soul to soul having conversations and, assisting that way.
I love that. And let me ask you, if people wanted to, people who are listening to this and they want to reach out to you and work with you, what would be maybe the best way for them to contact you?
um I was gonna say, just mind meld, just think it, and I'll put it out there. Um, okay, so I've got a website. It's a firewithin.me. So it's a fire within me, firewithin.me. So they can go to the website. I really love when people read what I'm about before reaching out, because I get a lot of people who they schedule appointments, but they haven't read what the appointment was. And
Mm,
so now I've learned, every time I just say, now, what was your reason for scheduling the appointment? And I'm learning to shift what we do on the fly, because
yeah.
it's, they'll sign up for one thing when it was really another kind of thing. But anyway, but it's very clear. So I love for people to go and read what I'm about, see if I resonate with them first. And I need to put up some links to other things that are tangent to what I'm doing, meaning I do have some resources on there, but I've got a podcast that I'm doing with my friends, Will and Allison Brown, who are with Palm and Lotus out of Somerville and North Charleston area. And it's called Out on a Limb.
Hmm.
And so what we talk about is what it's like to, like, what our journeys have been like, um, what it's, from both the client perspective and from the practitioner. So it's useful for both areas, both camps, like, how did we know when to charge? How much did we know to charge? Or just talking about different spiritual experiences we've had and so forth. And we also interview other people, who, like, have had unusual experiences and so forth, and bring them into it. So we are just building that podcast and having a good time with it. And I'm about to launch another podcast called KISS, Keep It Simple, Sister. And this is really going to be more like talk show thoughts of the day, but kind of how you integrate your spiritual life with your daily life,
Mm,
um, that sort of thing. And so it's going to be fun, laughter, that kind of thing, and be more interactive with people. And then the last is that I am starting a membership group, because to me, when I was in a community with other people, learning these skills of how to get into that good feeling space, how to deal with whatever the um, that trigger was of the day, um, and having a community to talk to, and then be able to have the consistency of the practice
Yeah.
and have the accountability as well as the exploration of materials and so forth. So that's, I'm calling that flow coaching, and I'm just keeping that as easygoing and light as possible. So I'm hoping to have that underway in the next couple of months.
Nice. Yeah. I mean, I graduated from a peer group, what, about 8 months ago, and I still meet with them every week. And I have a buddy from that peer group, Laura Montesano. I've got more love for her than I have for, most people. And like we hold a,
I
oh,
met
have
Laura
you?
back in the collective, and
Nice.
um when she was interested in becoming a freedom formula,
Yeah.
I was like, I did a bunch of clearings for her, so she and
Yeah.
I got to know each other.
Oh, that's
And
awesome.
yes, she is like a beacon on the horizon, man.
Yeah,
She is
she really
awesome.
is. There's something
Shout out
there's
to you,
something
Laura.
special about her. And
Yeah.
yeah, I'm going to be in the Denver area in August. And so we're going to see if we can meet and get a maybe a buddy power fist bump or high five or something, whatever it is. And yeah, it'll be a lot of fun. Well, I really appreciate your time. This has been incredible. I feel like we could just go on and on and on and on and really not run out
Not
of
to rip
material to
on.
talk about. You're very easy to talk to. I love that. I
Thank
suspect that
you.
makes it very easy to be able to relay information to you and to also receive it. Right, especially in a very intimate space, and something about whether it be babies that you don't even know are about to manifest, or or whatever sort of intimate thing. And so
Mhm.
I wonder if for those listening, if you have any final words of wisdom for people who maybe they're struggling, they know that there's something not right, they know that there's a place of dis-ease in their life. It doesn't necessarily have to be manifested as a disease or a chronic condition, but they know that there's something not right, and that they want to take care of it. Do you have any advice for maybe a best first step in order to start that journey?
Well, I would say that if they're not familiar with the concept of the ascension, um, to research that there's a whole process of the Earth's energy um, elevating into a higher space. We define it as the third dimension going into the fourth, fifth dimension. Um, but I kind of describe it as, think about it, if you are feeling that uncomfortable feeling, whatever it is. Maybe you feel despondent. Okay, take that emotion, just feeling despondent about life, depressed, whatever it is. As the Earth's energy vibrates at a higher level, all of us, everything, we're all made of energy. We're all elevating at a higher, moving up in frequency. If you're in that frequency of despondency, everything else is elevating, you're not. Therefore, you're going to feel worse. It's
Mm,
going to be a feeling of it's going to be an intensification of the feeling, that is going to shift you into a less good feeling space. Even though you're still vibrating where you are, it's just because you're not shifting up. um, so the main message I've gotten through channeling, and we didn't even really get into that, but I channel galactics, five beings called the benevolent beings, but I refer to as BB. Their big message has been, we need to heal. You need to heal. You can't just let it go any further, because that energy in you, that vibrational state, is going to become more and more uncomfortable. Energy that is trapped in your body that you've not released is going to become more and more uncomfortable. And it's also why a lot of people are beginning to feel like they'll have bouts of depression, then bouts of kind of like, it's almost like being manic, and it's
mm,
all of this shift and solar flares and all this other kind of stuff, which just gets into a whole nother area. But the important thing is, you have got to release from whatever, if it's grief, if it's depression, if it's anxiety or whatever. And a lot of the anxiety that people are feeling it's literally this, they just know something's shifting, things are shifting. Yes, if you watch the media, that sure as hell is going to make you feel, anxiety. It's
Yeah.
designed to make you feel unbalanced.
Yep.
But if you remove all of that, you're still going to feel it a bit, because there's a shift in absolutely everything going on. So and so it's to find someone who resonates with you. Like, you might have someone that says, oh, my acupuncturist is great, but if that person doesn't resonate with you, then that is not the person meant for you. Maybe go try it one time, see if it feels right. But if it's
Yeah.
not right, there's sound healing, there's scalar therapy, there is tachyon chambers. There are, people who do the spiritual life coaching, even regular life coaching. There is EMDR, EFT. There's all this stuff that you can explore out there that, so my main thing is, you've got to look at first what resonates with you. And no matter what people tell you where you should go, you have to exercise discernment. And
Mm.
that's a big one, where you have to go, that goes along with, with it resonating. You have to listen and go, does this feel right?
Yeah.
Is this, what is meant for me? Because just because obviously yours and my path are two totally different paths, but we've wound up in a place that is very, like, relatable,
Yeah.
we can, we have our
Adjacent
common ground.
yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
So so it's the importance of, this is the time of cleansing, and
Mm.
you stop putting your head in the sand and go for it, and just start asking around. And I think well, I know I'm this way. If you ask me, I'm not going to say, oh, come see me. I'm going to evaluate where you're at with things, and then I'm going to point you in 5 different directions. And it may be, yes, you can do something with me, but energetically, I feel like you can go here, here, and here, because there's not just one answer, and not one thing is going to be the thing that does it for you. It's going to keep shifting. So
Mm. I like
they
that. Well,
say,
and what I really like about that answer too is reminds me of an interview I listened to with my master Ed Stracher and a man by the name of Dennis Stevenson. And Dennis would actually go and he would help, I mean, millionaires, multimillionaires, and even people who weren't millionaires to become millionaires on financial flow. And one thing that he said is that it doesn't matter what you do, but that you do, that you take a step forward and you just start finding out and trial and error, try everything, right? And then figure out what works and what doesn't. And then when you, just like you tried, we showed up, hey, it didn't resonate with me. Well, now you know it didn't work for you. Now I know it wasn't for you. It was for other people.
yeah,
And and that's progress, right? And so many of us are so caught up in, I need to show up and the clouds part and the angels, oh, and there's this chorus of singing and there's a light from heaven that shines on me and I get the warm fuzzies and I get the
you're
cold
done.
tinglies up my spine and then I start floating and speaking in tongues and then I know that I've arrived. And it's just, that's such an that's going to be an expectation that's going to be unmet for the rest of your life, most likely.
Yeah. Well, and there's one other thing I want to add to what I
Yeah.
said, because again, my whole thing is, I'm about empowerment. It's, what can I teach my clients so that they don't need to come back to me, unless it resonates with them. But um, here's a big one, especially because a lot of us are getting the feels. We're very empathic. Those of us that have been coming in over the past, I'd say 50 to 60 years, especially, is when you feel that offness, something's not right. Um, Actually, the very first thing they should do is to check in with themselves, get into a mindful space. I know it's harder if you have anxiety, if you have, get yourself into a better feeling state, whether it's going to watch a movie or, going out for drinks or whatever, and then just get in that state and then just say, is this mine?
Mm.
Identify what the emotion is and just say, is this mine? And you'll feel it. If it's yours, man, it just feels heavy. And if it's not, you just feel things lighten up, you know? But if you've been carrying it for a long time, it may not feel as light, because now you kind of set yourself into emotion. But that's a really important skill to learn how to do for everything.
Yeah, I like that.
So
Yeah,
just wanted to throw that
that's
one
great
in.
advice. Yeah, no, I appreciate you doing that. Well, Samantha, this has again been wonderful. We'll probably have to have you on another time, and we can talk about BB and really, where how you got into that, and then what that's, how that's expanded your field of view, and how it, tuning in with BB's really helped you help others. But this has been an incredible conversation. I really appreciate the time that you spent with me today. And for those who are listening to this, and they're saying, hey, there's something about what Samantha's saying that resonates with me. Well, go check out afirewithin.me and, be respectful to her and read about her, right? See what she's about. And then if it's right for you, well, then reach out to her, schedule an appointment, and see what you can do to get some clarity on, what might be, hiding, from you in order for you to find that next best step in your life, in your direction. And again, Samantha, thank you so much. And may love and truth always guide your path.
Wonderful. Thank you. Namaste.
Thank you so much. Bye.